is Cristina Bravo, and for the purpose of this video, I will be analyzing 3 different infographics in Spanish about caring for your mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic. I chose this topic because I'm a Spanish major and I have also been working in the medical field for almost 5 years now. Growing up in a Hispanic household and living in such during the pandemic too, I can say that mental health is not talked about very much in our community. Due to all these reasons, I started to wonder how mental health awareness was taken into account for the Spanish speakers during the pandemic. These 2 infographics you will see were both found on pages online. The last infographic was created by me after taking into consideration the previous 2 and incorporating what we have learned in this course about making a good infographic. So this first infographic comes from a nonprofit organization called Impact, located in Illinois, which is made up of healthcare workers, patients, families, and their communities who want their voices to be heard. It's giving 6 pieces of advice about things you can do to keep yourself sane throughout the pandemic. This is an informational infographic because it's divided into sections, a bit more text heavy, and uses the images as a type of header to draw in the reader. It is creating awareness about mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic, as I have mentioned before. And the tips are sectioned off and have arrows that help you follow through it. Although they are numbered, I don't think these steps are all necessarily in order. I believe the arrows in this were the author's way of getting the audience to engage with the infographic. Considering the organization is in Illinois, I would say that the target audience is the Spanish-speaking residents of Illinois, but it could as well be the general audience. While the pandemic was going on, just to follow through the thinking process of this infographic, people were scared to hear about the rising cases of COVID-19, hearing all sorts of concerning updates. This infographic begins by advising them to stop perhaps the biggest contributor to their fears and turn off the news for a while. As we had to go into lockdown, a lot of people hit a period of depression from being apart from others for so long. The infographic reminds them that they need to take care of their bodies and nourish properly with food, exercise, sleep. The best way that they could stay prepared was by being informed about what steps they had to take if they were to fall ill with COVID, which is the next step, know what to do and who to go to. Again, since we all had to socially distance, it was important to maintain communication with friends and family via our devices. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean you can't talk to them, and that is a critical factor in the mental health emphasized by this piece. As the outbreak began and no one really knew how to manage it, people felt helpless and like nothing was in their control. This could have a toll on your mental health, so the poster advises people to make a routine. That way they can at least take control of their day. People had a lot of more free time being away from work and school, so the poster encourages them to do things like painting or reading. A lot of people picked up old hobbies, some people learn new hobbies. Overall, I think it's a good infographic, but I do have a few changes I would make, referencing the advantages and disadvantages article by Spinks. Infographics should be easy to read and have stackable content to navigate in seconds. So the first change I would make is a simple typo with the hashtag at the top left. It says hashtag distanciamiento social, and it should be hashtag distanciamiento social. My other suggestion would be not to use the arrows, increase the subheading font, and incorporate the resources listed with the same design as the tips given, kind of like adding an extra section to it rather than just placing it at the bottom of the poster, because I feel like it kind of gets lost in the end. Moving on to the second infographic, it has a more specific audience compared to the first one. Its target audience seems to be frontline workers dealing with the pandemic and their close ones. So the first one tells the audience to take care of their own mental health, while the second one calls for the audience to check up on their close ones that work in this front line, in this in healthcare. It's telling these workers to take care of themselves first so they can take care of others, while also asking their close ones to check up on these workers during these tough times. This is another informational infographic because there is a heavier amount of text and it relays information to the audience. It's common for healthcare workers to be bilingual, but for some jobs like environmental services, that is not always the case. The infographic has a section that states their objective audience. It says professionals who assist in health groups, professionals and volunteers not in the medical staff, but collaborate to the response of the pandemic, healthcare givers in different environments of the healthcare establishments, and those responsible for the public or private healthcare system. Essentially, all levels of healthcare workers and volunteers at these facilities that have stepped up to help throughout the circumstances of the pandemic. For this infographic, I would make the information a little bit more digestible to the audience by paraphrasing a little more while still maintaining the importance of the message. People tend not to pay attention to something that looks too long or wordy, and I think this one has a little too much going on. The same article by Spinks also says that infographics should provide information without overwhelming the reader with wordy explanations, but must still grab the eye and keep users engaged with the content. I think this infographic has good images, but it could be better at grabbing the audience's attention. It is also more of a monochromatic colored poster. I would enhance the use of colors. As Stephen Pugh mentions in his article, Data Visualization for Human Perception, the principles of the signs you should follow are based on your comprehension of human perception. In order to effectively disperse data, you must know how to present that information in an alluring way, making the audience interested in the infographic. The last infographic is the one I made after considering the last two. I went more for the tips towards the general audience. I tried incorporating colors that drew the audience in while not being something too exaggerated. I like the picture as headings idea, so I kept that in mind. I also made sure that the resources listed drew as much attention as the other information as a way to make sure that it didn't get overlooked. I made a call to action in the subheading and explained as briefly and clearly as I could in the text below. I got rid of the arrows, but I did leave the different tips number to kind of tie it all together. I try to keep in mind what type of things draw my attention when I'm walking around campus or scrolling through feeds, and I put it all together to attempt something aesthetic yet notable. So this was my result. And that is all I have. Thank you.